Okay, so I'm not quite done giving feedback just yet, and I figured this might happen because I rushed through the last video. I didn't write anything down, so I was just trying to do it all from memory, and I forgot I wanted to elaborate on a few more topics, and I saw some comments that got me thinking about another topic, and I decided I agree with it and I just want to mention it. And that is the issue of Snake putting his guns or weapons away automatically when he's not using them. At first I thought it was designed this way so that you wouldn't have to cycle weapons to like a grenade or a knife so that you could run faster, because the weight of the gun affected your movement speed in Metal Gear 4. But then I thought, wait a minute, in Metal Gear 5, your guns are still displayed on your body, just not in your hands when you're running around, so obviously it doesn't affect your running speed at all. So the only other reason to have it designed this way is for CQC. That way, no matter what gun you have equipped, you can still grab a hold of an enemy. This even includes sniper rifles. Back in Metal Gear 4, you could perform CQC with everything except sniper rifles. When you approach the enemy, press the CQC button, it didn't do anything. So you could at least use a rifle to push them away, or you could disarm and stun the enemy instantly. And I mentioned these back in the first video. I really like these moves because they add a lot of variety to the CQC, and you can come up with some interesting combos. I thought it would be cool to even chain these rifle CQC moves together the same way you can with the bare-handed CQC. If you're not using a two-handed weapon, then you would have access to these CQC disarms. One disadvantage of using a rifle in Metal Gear 4 was you had to switch to a handgun in order to grab a hold of the enemy so that you could have complete control over them. But it wouldn't have to be that way, and once again I'm going to use Splinter Cell Blacklist as an example because it's a game that does a lot of things right. In this game, your guns are displayed in your hands at all times, and it doesn't affect your running speed. Even if you switch to a sniper rifle, you can still pretty much maintain the same running speed. But the interesting thing about a sniper rifle is that it doesn't affect your CQC. So in this game, you can just approach an enemy, press the CQC button, you still grab a hold of them, your sniper rifle automatically goes on your back, and you equip your handgun. So that's one possibility, but something else you could do is have a new CQC move with a rifle where you hit the enemy in the face with the stock of the gun, turning them around, allowing you to grab a hold of him all in one animation. Your sniper rifle goes on your back automatically and you equip your handgun. When you're done with him, you automatically re-equip your sniper rifle or whatever two-handed gun you're using. When you're approaching a climbable object, the same thing would happen where your gun automatically goes on your back. When you're done climbing, you re-equip it, but if you jump down, it doesn't really need to do that. This used to happen in Metal Gear 4. When you climbed something, your gun would just disappear out of your hand, and when you're done climbing, it reappears. So this isn't very realistic, but in Splinter Cell, again, when you climb a ladder, your gun goes on your back, and you have the ability to shoot a handgun while climbing a ladder, and this is the ability I described in the first video that I'd like to be able to do. The only time you should unequip your weapon automatically is if you're running full speed, but it would only do that after maybe like a 5-second delay, and as soon as you stop running, you would re-equip your weapon again. A good example of what I'm talking about is in The Last of Us. When you're using a gun and you run for a little while, you just automatically put it away, and when you're walking or running around normal speed, I think your weapons should display in your hand at all times. Putting your weapons away so quickly after using them honestly just looks a little bit silly to me and to some other people. Obviously, a soldier in real life would never do this, and I know it's just a video game, but the old way was so much better looking and more realistic. You know, you want Snake to look cool, not goofy. So I strongly suggest that you change it back to the old way. Putting your weapons away automatically also affects Team Sneak, and I mentioned this briefly in the second video, where in Team Sneak you always looked for a floating gun or a knife to spot people on the stealth team. But now since you put your guns away automatically, I feel like stealth camo is a bit overpowered. But maybe that's one reason why they removed holdups, is that was their attempt at balancing things out. But it'd be really hard to spot people, especially at nighttime, and if there's weather effects like sandstorms or blizzards, then it's going to be really, really difficult. I mean, it was already difficult enough as it is to spot people on this map in MGO 2, so I think, you know, you could bring back holdups, make weapons visible in their hands, because when people requested that Team Sneak come back, they were expecting it to be the same as it was before. They didn't want a new version of it. The only thing I wouldn't mind seeing is, like I said before, your stealth camo should stay on if you didn't get spotted, but I thought of another way to adjust that, and that is if your team is linked up through like a SOP, Then maybe if one of you gets spotted, everyone's camo goes off, but if you're not linked up, then it only goes off for the person who got spotted. And of course the disadvantage of not linking up would be that if someone on your team got a scan, then you wouldn't be able to see the enemies through the walls. I don't even know if scanning is in the game, but it has an advantage over marking or tagging targets with binoculars, because you have to do that one at a time, but scan makes everyone show up at once as long as they're linked up. Then again, maybe you don't even have to do an SOP link, it might be automatic at the start of the round. I feel like that would be an unnecessary restriction though, because then you would be removing the freedom of choice for the player to link up or not link up. I guess the controls for it could still be the same as they used to be. As long as you're not near an object to take cover on, you could press triangle while running or whatever action button you're using. If you're standing still and hold triangle or action button, you can still do the salute. I'm sure some people would want to see that come back to the game. Getting back to the subject of tagging enemies again though, I tweeted about this and I think I've seen other people say the same thing, but I definitely think that tagging enemies should not be a permanent effect until they get killed or the match ends. So I think it should last between maybe like 10, 20, or 30 seconds depending on what class type you choose. That would determine what level of tagging ability you would have. I think it would be more advanced for certain class types, but everyone should have the ability on a basic level. While I'm on the subject of seeing things through walls, if you notice the target there that Snake's looking at, it looks like a Blu-ray disc to me. After he looks at it, he can't see it through a wall. He has to look at it through line of sight. And since there's no radar, I was thinking, how are we supposed to keep track of the target if someone runs off with it? So maybe radar should come back. I don't want to have to bring out my iDroid every few seconds to see where he's going with the target. And I know you can use a tablet as your radar, but I don't plan on buying one of those. I think you can also use a smartphone, but I don't have one of those either, and I don't want to have to buy an extra device just to play this game. I'm hoping this mini Metal Gear isn't something you get through like GMP points and kill streaks, but it's just like an exclusive piece of equipment for the defending team in what looks like a rescue mission to me. I started to get off track there, but I want to go back to talking about the different class types and the skills. I've suggested the idea of being able to customize the skills for each class, but I think if you just gave each class type a lot of skills, we wouldn't really need to customize it. If we don't have that, then there should be some kind of mix and matching a little bit. That way it's kind of a mixture of the old and new. So that means we would have to have some restrictions on skills, like certain skills are only available to certain classes. And it would make sense according to what class type it is. Like a big heavy armored guy would have a slower movement speed, but he would be deadlier up close. So he should be an expert at like CQC and using a knife, have access to shotguns and shields and machine guns. Then there would be pretty much the opposite of that, where the guy would have very little body armor, but he'd be able to run really fast, have access to stealth camouflage and tranquilizer pistols, and maybe a lower level CQC that doesn't like automatically disarm. And as you can see in this clip here, it doesn't look like he's disarming the enemy. So it tells me he has a lower level CQC. And from the looks of the trailer, that seems to be the way it's designed. But like I said, if we just have a long list of skills and we don't even have to mess with the customization, we just pick our class and start playing, I think that the idea of a class system actually sounds pretty good to me, and I admit I didn't like it at first, but I think it does have the potential to be even better than MGO 2. In terms of the skills system, that way you don't even have to mess with anything. It would be more organized that way too. That way you just pick the class you want at the start of the match, and then everyone has their own job, unless everyone picks the same class, which I bet will happen, because people love to run and gun. My playstyle is a little bit of run and gun, but also I like to go back to the stealth for a little bit and just kind of switch back and forth, so hopefully there's a class type that fits my playstyle. In the first MGO, you could also play as Ocelot, but back then you had the ability to bounce bullets around corners and hit people. I think that was a cool ability, and I'd like to see it come back. As you probably figured out by now, I usually like to end my videos with a more personal message, and this time I think I'd just like to say, the first day I got Ground Zeroes, I immediately went to the options screen to find out what my control configuration options were, and I was immediately disappointed, and I hadn't even played the game yet, and I just looked at what was available and I thought, well, this is just first-person shooter style controls. And I immediately knew that the fast responsive playstyle of Metal Gear 4 and MGO 2 was no longer there. So honestly, I felt actually a little bit insulted, because I felt like all the game was trying to do was appeal to the first-person shooter casual audience, and the longtime fans of Metal Gear like me were just being overlooked and ignored. But the developers could easily make up for that just by giving us back a more classic style control configuration like the one I've described. It would be a great fan service, and it would also be like a really big thank you to all the long-time loyal fans that have supported Metal Gear for all these years. I mean, those are the fans that got Metal Gear to where it is today. I'm definitely not the only one that wants this either. I've received pretty much nothing but positive feedback from everyone who's watched my last few videos on this subject, and most people have agreed on everything or almost everything I said. So I'd just like to say to those people that if you agree with me, you should let the developers know just like I did. Because I can't do this alone. It takes more than one person's opinion to make some big changes happen. The perfect example is the cardboard box. It wasn't in Ground Zeroes, so people complained and said, well, this is Metal Gear, where's the cardboard box? So you gotta bring it back, and of course they did, and they made it better than ever. But I doubt there's a way to come up with a better control configuration than the one I've thought of, because I've thought about it for almost a year now, and that's given me plenty of time to work out any flaws. It combines the best of Metal Gear 4 with the new additions of Metal Gear 5. I realized you can bring back the old abilities. I even included more abilities that have never been in Metal Gear. It brings back the old abilities and compensates for the new ones, combines them all together, and makes it all work. I just hope I'm not asking for too much. And I know some of it is just a simple button remapping, but other things will require new animations, and I don't know how long that would take, but I've heard that working on the Fox engine is pretty quick, so hopefully it's not too much work for the developers. I mean, it was only 3 months after Ground Zeroes came out where they debuted the cardboard box at E3, and not only did they bring it back, but it had more abilities than ever before, and some that we still haven't even seen yet. And they could have had it done sooner than that, but they waited till E3 to show it off. I was concerned that my suggestions might be too late for the single player, because I know it's supposed to be in the final stages of development, and then they're going to start bug testing, and after that they'll announce a target release date window. But for MGO 3, I know that they're gonna make expansion packs, and they even confirmed on Twitter the other day that they want feedback even after the game comes out so they can continue to improve it. So hopefully I'm not too late to suggest all these ideas for the single player, and if I am, then maybe they could patch it in after the game comes out. I would be okay with that. It would be nice to have it at launch, but I'll take it any way I can get it. Even if it means delaying the game for like 2 or 3 months. I mean, I've waited this long, so what's another few months? This time I don't want to say that this should be my last feedback video, because I said that last time, and here I am making a video that's even longer than the previous one. I wasn't expecting this video to be this long. I thought it might be about 5 or 6 minutes, but I guess I just get into a creative mode and I just have one idea after the other. In fact, I kind of enjoy making these videos because it makes me feel like I'm part of the development team, knowing that the developers themselves have seen the videos. I guess I've always been kind of like a game developer in my head. I always know exactly what I want from certain types of games. Well, thanks for listening to me ramble again. For whoever's watching, I won't take up any more of your time, and once again, thanks for watching.